So without further ado, our closing keynote speaker is Steve Spohn. Steve is the Senior Director of Development at Able Gamers, an author, a gamer. Steve has used his own life story to make gaming accessible and move it forward. So turn it over to Steve.
Man, they didn't tell me that, like, we could play adorable animals like koala bears and stuff. Wow. Okay, that's not exactly fair. Oh, it's not even the first slide. Fantastic. Okay, good. So how y'all doing today? Yeah? Yeah? Everybody ready to go home? Yeah? Look. Okay, so, hi, how you doing? So, I am up here today to talk to you all about what it's like to experience life from the disability side. So, since we have our slides backwards here, let me tell you, since we're gonna run this the other way around, I tried to think of a way to do this, but being disabled is kind of like living life on hard mode, right? Most of the time I get to do things that you would do and take for granted, like taking a shower or going to the supermarket, and I do them the same as you. I put my pants on with a team of people just like you every day. And that kind of hard mode mentality keeps me doing the things that I'm doing up here. If you want to go to the next slide, eventually. Okay, one more slide. Oh, almost. There you go. Okay, so I was going to tell you about who I am, but instead I decided to ask ChatGPT. I'm gonna let the robot tell you who I am, which I thought was a way better way than writing it myself. So according to the robot, I'm an influential disability advocate, then consultant, and a gamer. It did not write that I'm a good gamer. I am, I swear. He's best known for his work with Able Gamers, a nonprofit that aims to improve the quality of life for people with disabilities through the power of video games. Able Gamers seeks to create opportunities for socialization and inclusion, enabling individuals with disabilities to enjoy gaming experiences on a level playing field. That is the jargon that the lawyers actually make us say. What we actually do is we help people with disabilities to have the experiences that they want to have at the places where they are. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, think about for a second independence, okay? When's the first time that you drove a car? When's the first time that you went out on your own away from your parents? Think about something fun, like when's the first time you had your first kiss? I haven't thought about that in a while. Some of you were like, I don't want to think about that. But here we are, now you're thinking about it. So those kind of times where your independence has thrived has been key to your life. It was you expanding yourself. It was you becoming who you really are. Well, for some people, it's just not possible, not in the frame that their disability allows. And that's where video games excel so much. Now, I can tell every single person in here is a big Fortnite player. You probably play games all the time. Let me get a show of hands if you even know what a video game is. Do you know what a video game is? Have you heard of video games? Okay, good. 3 of you, fantastic. That's great, love it, that's my audience. So, video games are an inclusive place where a lot of us can get together in ways that you might not be able to in the real world. Everybody in here, all the therapists from around the world, you all know that you enable people to experience as much of the world as they can. But try as you might, sometimes technology just doesn't make up the gaps. There's too much. You know, stairs are real. You can take them one time and then that's it. So you have to be really careful, right? You have to use the one time very appropriately. I haven't figured out mine yet. So in that, guys, you have to remember video games open a window to an otherwise inaccessible world for many individuals, people who wouldn't have opportunities like they do if it weren't for video games, for those virtual worlds. Now, let me tell you a little story. I promise to tell you at least 19 stories and bore you to death for the next 60 minutes, don't worry. So one of my favorite stories when it came to early days of Able Gamers was this wonderful person who had been writing a lead developer at BioWare. They made a really cool game called Warhammer, and they kept writing letters, and it was from this kid. And the developer really didn't understand. They kept thanking them for the game and kept, being like, wow, this is so great. Thank you so much. And, devs don't get fan mail very much, not at all. So the fact that they got fan mail, it's like wondering you're getting a fan mail from a patient, right? It doesn't happen that often. So it was pretty special. And they talked about how great it was to find this opportunity to connect with a fan. It was a young 14, 15-year-old. She was in the world where she could have unicorns and ponies and have this wonderful experience of going around and enjoying this virtual world where she could play and have a house. And then one of the final letters that the developer got was finding out that this young girl had a terminal illness that wasn't going to allow her to leave her house. She was essentially trapped in her own four walls. That was just where she stayed. So in her life, she was never going to make it to 20. She was not with us anymore. She's not going to be someone who gets to experience a marriage and owning a car or even a pony farm, right? But in this world, her parents were overjoyed because in that world, she did own a pony farm. And she did meet a young boy that she was infatuated with, and they got married in the game, and they had a wonderful time. And they had an experience of real life. Now, it wasn't exactly the same, right? It wasn't exactly the same as real life, but it was as close as you're going to get, right? It's something that all of us take for granted every day when we go out and we experience the real world. That's what we do at Able Gamers. That's what I have done for a very long time, is trying to find ways for people to continue to enjoy their lives and to experience things for the first time. So your seating symposium, where all of you are professionals, medical therapists, whether you're a vendor, whether you're from the old country of Ireland, any of those, right? You know that you are someone who is out there trying to make a difference. And when I was talking to Rachel about how we wanted to set up today's event, I flat out told her, like, this is going to be me talking about how you have the power to change someone's life. Now, maybe you don't believe in video games, right? So I'm gonna talk to those of you who think that video games are a joke, because some people do, and that's okay. You don't have to believe in video games, because you know what? I'm here to tell you a horrible, horrible, dirty secret that Able Gamers does not want you to know. In fact, my coworkers down there, they will literally yell at me if I try to say this on stage, but I'm gonna do it anyway. We are a video game charity that doesn't really too much care if you're someone who believes in games, because we want you to believe in people. The video games are just a tool. The video games are how we get you to connect to the world. What if you're somebody who can't connect to the world, right? Can you go back one slide? So when I was talking to the computer, I basically asked it and I said, what would you do, Chat GPT? For those of you who don't know, it's a super smart computer that tells you how to run your life. I would not ask it for stock advice, but it tells you how to do things. So this is what it said, talk about how I'm the chief operations officer. That's my old title. Now I'm the senior director. Talk about how I have SMA. I'm guessing by now you've figured out that I'm disabled. If you haven't, surprise, disabled. And I have accolades, I have awards, who cares? But our impact is our lives, is what we did, right? It's what we do. So go back one more slide to the first slide. So there we go. So let's talk a little bit about why you should give a flying hoot about what I'm saying. Well, number one, I got to talk to an orange puppet. I'm guessing that's the thing that you're looking at on the screen right there. That's the most important one above Ryan Reynolds. Pay attention to the orange puppet. when I started doing all this, I was just an individual. I was just someone who had a dream of being included, someone who had a dream of enjoying life, and that's what I wanted to do. And it was thanks to a seating professional. It was thanks to an OT that I finally figured out what I would be able to do in life. So for those of you who don't know, there's this little cool joystick that's in my hands right now. It's a mini proportional joystick. It basically means that I can just touch it lightly and the chair will move most of the time the way that I want it to move. And it's an amazing piece of technology, but it didn't always exist. For a good 3 years of my life, it involved not being able to use a joystick because my disease is progressive, and slowly but surely, I lost abilities. I was not able to run around my house, to go flirt with women. I wasn't able to do anything. Look at the four walls, which honestly, if you look at the same walls, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the feeling of being locked down for multiple years. It's not fun, but you start seeing the paint and the wall, and it starts looking like prison bars, and honestly, it's how it feels. So how everyone felt during lockdowns, how disabled people often feel if they can't leave their own homes. Imagine that feeling for 40 years. That's oppressive, right? So what do you do to break that? Well, number one, you introduce technology. Number one, you come up with something cool. So my seating technologist came up with this cool mini joystick, and I can tell you, it was one of the best days of my life because it's the day that I got my independence back, right? But how do you know when that day is going to be your last good day, right? You don't. You have no idea. Every single one of you sitting in this audience, just because I want to bring the mood down, this could be your last good day. You don't know. You don't. You don't. And that's the thing. So one day, a progressive illness, spoilers, is progressive, and I lost the ability to use this joystick. I wasn't able to drive anymore. And suddenly I had to imagine, what would my life be if I was not able to drive my own chair again? What would that be like? That was horrifying. I went through very quickly cycles of depression and grief and loss, as if I was mourning the loss of a friend. And so that ability was gone for almost 2 weeks. I had no idea that it was going to be my last day. My last good day with this joystick, when I could drive around and maneuver that ramp over there at full top-notch speeds of mind-blowing 8 miles an hour, I had no idea. I literally went to, I think, Dairy Queen and had like a shake. It was great. I don't remember what flavor it was. I'm sorry, I can't tell you. But the good thing was I had that day out. I wouldn't have had that otherwise. So what does Able Gamers do, and how do we manage to bring those kind of joys and those kind of things to people with disabilities? Well, we interview and we talk to people with disabilities. My colleague down there, Dr. Andy Wu, he's a super smart gentleman. You can tell because he has a very nice haircut. Beyond the haircut, is one of the smartest fellows that I've ever met. And what he does is he interviews people and he asks them where they want to be, where they want to go. Something that I think therapists in this room can appreciate, that you have to know where your patient wants to go in order to know what's important. So you ask them what their challenges are, what their barriers are, and then you pair the technology with how to reach point A with point B. That's how it works, right? So we were over in Aliquippa at a special needs facility. I hate the word special needs, but that's their word, not mine. So we were over at the center, and we met this lovely kid named Zane. Now, Zane is, well, he was an adorable little 16-year-old. Blonde hair, blue eyes, he's on a ventilator much like I am, but he doesn't quite have the abilities that I do. He's further progressed, so he's reclined back, he's with it, he is talking, but he's talking in a whisper. He really isn't connecting well around the world. He's confined in this facility. Well, they reach out from their, RTs at the time and say, hey, can you help us? So we get along, we grab a bunch of technology, we go, and we meet Zane, and we get him his technology. and it's amazing, right? He's got this cool new ability now where he can operate a race car, and he can go through and have fun in battling monsters and slaying dragons and whatnot. But his brother, who is also in the facility, he's there, and he is even further along the SMA trail. And he's not able at all to move. He can't move a muscle. He's staring forward. He can't communicate. He can't talk. And these two sit in the same room, and that's what they do. They watch Wheel of Fortune. That's their lives. They sit in the same room. They don't communicate, but they're there with each other. And if that sounds like it would be kind of terrifying, it kind of is, because who would put on a Wheel of Fortune willingly? That room was, and we had to do something about it. So my buddy Craig Kaufman down there and myself, we got together and we talked about, this idea of what if we brought this kind of stuff to a facility? What if we gave this to a place where we could hook up more than one person at one time, right? So we put these two brothers in the same room. We give them technology. They're able to play on a game called Forza, and they are able to compete with each other, so we hooked them up. It's the very first time they've ever played a video game together, and they've never been able to communicate in the last 10 years. They do so with Zane whispering, and his brother can't talk at all. Put them up, put them on the joystick. The other guy put them on a foot pedal. Turn on the game, start the game, and they both start out their cars. Zane goes forward. His brother pushes down on the gas pedal and immediately slams into the side of his brother and giggles and then continues the car running. Because why wouldn't you? The first thing you could do with your independence, torture your brother. That's what it's all about. That's what this life is all about. These opportunities, that's really what we're up here to do. That's what Able Gamers does. And I think, this is my hunch, but I'm gonna guess the reason that you haven't walked out of this presentation, number one, is because I'm charming as hell, but two, and funny and good looking. Stop me anytime. But also, it's that you care. I think that you care. I think you care deeply. And I think, from my bottom dollar, I would bet that you would love to figure out how to reach some of your patients that don't have a way to reach the outside world. And I'm here to tell you that video games are that opportunity. So whether you believe in video games or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you can use those as a connection point. Those are something that you can do. It's not impossible. It wasn't impossible for Zane. It wasn't impossible for his brother, right? It wasn't impossible for that young girl who has a pony farm and a husband, right? Those are possible, right? So I want to share one more story, and then we're going to let you all go home. Unless Rachel says you can't, then you have to stay. Sorry. So when I was first starting out doing this long ago, we went to a disability convention. It's much like this. And we brought, again, the Forza game and the foot pedals and the controllers and whatnot. And there was this lovely family, a mom, a dad, a sister and a brother, and another brother who was in a wheelchair. And the kid in the wheelchair, maybe, I don't know, 7, 8, something like that, reclined 45 degrees, oxygen tank behind him, heart monitor on the table, glued to it. He had a drool bib underneath him, his head cocked to the side, but he was staring. He was staring at our video game. He was staring at what we were offering, what we were showing, and we could kind of tell that they wanted to engage. And they just wouldn't, like they would not come over. But they were staying there, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna go over there and talk to these things. So I roll my happy butt over there, and I do my little charming Steve thing. Hey, come over, check out this thing. And they're like, no, it's not for us. Video games are not for us. Okay, well, just come over. Let's give it a try. Just come over. So we convinced them. We convinced them to come over. It's our founder, Mark Barley, and myself. And we're looking at the kid, and we're talking to the family, much like you do in your assessments, I'm sure, where you're noticing what their movements are. All of a sudden, we notice that he has a little bit of foot movement, just a little bit. And so we go, that's it. So we ask them if they can take off the footrest off the wheelchair, and the family says, okay. Mark grabs the foot pedal, holds it up to the kid, And the kid lightly presses it down with his foot, and the car comes roaring to life, moves across the speedway, slams into the wall. The kid just lights up like a Christmas tree. He's glowing, he's bubbling, he's giggling. It is one of the most joyous sights I have ever seen. And it would be a fantastic story if it stopped there. But the next day, I get a squeeze on the shoulder and I turn around. Now, as you can see, I'm like, 4.5 foot off the ground here, and this dude is like a rock looking dude. So I'm looking up at, hey, Mr. So-and-so, how's it going up there? And I noticed that he's got tears in his eyes. This is a big Marine dude, like crying. Okay, are you okay? He goes, yeah. No, Steve, I just had to come back and tell you thank you. I don't know about you, but I'm really bad at accepting compliments. So I'm like, oh, no problem. It's what we do here. We're happy to help. And he squeezes my shoulder, and he goes, no, Steve, you don't understand. My son is nonverbal. He can't communicate with me. He can't tell me what he wants or what he wants to do. But every weekend, we watch cartoons together, and he lays with his head in my lap, and we watch together, and it's good bonding time. But every time a video game commercial comes on, he wiggles and he bubbles, and I know that he wants that, and that was impossible for him. He couldn't do that. You guys gave that to him. You did that, and I can't thank you enough. And at this point, I'm just, it's okay. I'm falling out of my chair, with tears in my eyes, and he's the happiest, proudest father I've ever seen. He wanted to have that connection point with his son. He wanted his son to have that connection point with the world, and we were able to do that with technology. That's what technology allows you to do. So I'm going to be quite honest with you. My point, if you haven't figured it out by now, is inspirational talking. I don't do the presentation with the data points, and that's the smart Andy guy over there. You want smart stuff? Go talk to him. I'm up here to be the funny guy in the red shirt, right? And that's my position here. But that's because everything I do is very, very serious. There's a number of people that go through our peer counseling place that has not such a great outlook. Some people who are terminal and some people who just don't make it. And it's sad, and it's hard, and it makes the job hard. And I'm gonna guess most of you who are therapists, you've had a patient or two that you liked that just didn't make it through the process. And it's hard, right? It's hard to go through that. But you have to save as many as you can, and you have to help as many as you can. And that's what we do, because each and every one is about a player's experience. It's about giving them those things that they would not otherwise have had without your help. And that's what Able Gamers does with technology. It's what you do with your technology. And I tell you, my friends, this is the moment that you can change your outlook on therapy. You can change it from thinking about this company has the best product. This company is the one I like to go with. You think about the patient. You think about what their experiences are, what they want. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. At the end of the day, I was told it was impossible, that I was going to die before I hit my double-digit years. Back when I was 7 years old, and my mom was told by lovely doctors at Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh that I wasn't going to make it. It was impossible. He's never going to make it to 20. He's never going to hold a job. It's impossible. He's never going to live. He's never going to go to college. He's never going to make anything of himself because he's going to die. It's impossible for Zane to have a life. It is impossible for any of these people to be in the place that they are because it is not in their cards. It's impossible. I am standing here to tell you that I'm possible. They're possible. You're possible. As long as we work together, as long as we continue to work, I'm telling you, we can make this world a better place, one patient at a time. Now, independence is something that we've often gotten to talk about, and it's something that I think that a lot of you can resonate with. A lot of you can feel these kind of things, and Able Gamers has a lot of cool things this weekend, actually next weekend coming up. We have a really cool gala that we're doing for the first time, ablegamers.org/gala. It's gonna be a really cool event where we get to show off our newest and greatest and latest technology, including a 10-minute video that's much more heartwarming than I am. that can really make you feel what it's like to experience a player. How do you work with us? Well, that's easy. You go to ablegamers.org, you get to talk to the cool people like Andy. And for myself, well, y'all have power. Y'all have bosses. You have people you can go talk to. Start paying attention to the world that people with disabilities have to go to. Appreciate how your life is hard and you've got challenges, but disabled people every day, their ADLs, they're hard. Those daily living activities, they take a little bit more time, a little bit more effort. This PowerPoint presentation that I should have lots of pretty slides, it'd be great if I could only hold the darn remote control that pushes the button. Instead, I just get to yell out, next slide, and then there's the backward slides. So, you know, you have to wonder, right? What's it like to have to go through a disability? Well, I'm telling y'all, it's possible. With your help, you can help all of your patients, and I hope that you'll take from this speech that none of your patients have an impossible time. With your help, they can get through it. Thank you.